Okay, so this is your seventh stanza. Does sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? So the explanation is given here, like the speaker continues, because this is the whole continuation. We did last six stanzas, so this is a kind of continuation of her thoughts and her opinion. So the speaker continues her questioning of society. And by this time in the poem, it becomes apparent that the speaker has placed society on trial and is now in the process of cross-examination. She knows the answers to these questions, but to ask them is to incriminate the offender. While she asks incriminating questions, she simultaneously reveals incredible self confidence despite the oppression of society. Then there is stanza number 8, that is, out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a bleak ocean, leaping and wide. Whiling and swelling, I bear in the tide. So here, in this stanza, the speaker finally refers to the past, the reason that she is oppressed and resented to this day. She calls slavery history's shame, and she proclaims that she will not be held down by the past, even if it is rooted in pain. And then is your last stanza, like leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I'm the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. So this is, and here is the explanation. In the final stanza, the speaker reveals that she intends to leave behind all the effects of slavery and the history of oppression with the intent to rise above it. She claims that she will leave behind the terror and fear and that she will rise above the pain and the oppression into a daybreak that's wondrously clear. The speaker does not intend to allow the hatefulness of society or the pain of the past to stop her from becoming all that she ever dreamed of being. For this reason, she repeats 3 times, I rise. Then there is a kind of historical context of this. So from here, you can see the historical context, but I'm also, showing you another from another website. So that was also well written. Okay, we are just going to read this and then I'm going to show you another website. So the poem Still Arise was, uh, we are going in so much detail. So you should have so many things about this. And because this is the, as it is written here, like this is the title poem. And this is, showing us, everything, whatever you are going to, the thoughts of the poet, of the author. So whatever you are going to see in that book and whatever the poetry you are going to cover. So this is the main poem which is going to going to help you in understanding the themes and the ideas of the writer. So that's why we are focusing, and we are trying to do it in so much detail. Okay, so the poem Still I Rise was published in Maya Angelou's poetry collection, and Still I Rise. Okay, so now see, this is Still I Rise. This is the name of the poem which we are reading now, and then and Still I Rise. This is the name of the collection. Okay, so there we put and when we talk about the collection, and then Still I Rise is just the name of the poem. So the poem Still I Rise was published in Maya Angelou's poetry collection, and Still I Rise in 1978. It is the collection's title poem. Okay, this is the collection's title poem. This poem appears in the third part of the book. Angelou wrote a play in 1976 by the same title, and the work also touches on similar themes such as courage, injustice, and spirit of the Black people. This poem appeared in an advertising campaign for the 50th anniversary of the United Negro Conference Fund in 1994. In an interview in 1997, Angelou stated that she used the poem to sustain herself in hard times. According to her, not only the black but also the white used it similarly. This inspirational poem has some references that make readers look back at history. It reminds how Black people were treated in the past. The speaker is one of them. She firmly speaks against the injustices against them and says no matter how much society tries to throttle her voice, she will rise like the phoenix. A phoenix is an imaginary bird, okay? So it's a kind of reference to a bird. Okay, then we are going to here. So when you are going to cover this poem, especially Still I Rise, so you have to follow this link. I'm going to send you after the lecture, and then this link is also, helpful for covering this poem, especially which we are doing right now. So here you will find even more detail than the previous one. You are going to see. Okay, yes. So we are going to read this. Still a rise summary. Okay, you have the ability. So this is what the thoughts of the uh, poet. You have the ability to shape how history remembers me with your hurtful, warped lies. You have the power to walk all over me, crushing me into the dirt itself. But even so, I will rise up from the ground just as dust rises from the earth. Does my bold and cheeky attitude offend you? She questions. Why are you so miserable? Maybe it's because of the confident way I walk, as if I had oil wells right in my living room. I'm like the moon and the sun, the rises of which are as inevitable as the rise of the ocean tides. Just like high hopes, I'll keep rising. Are you hoping to see me looking sad and defeated? Did you want to see me in a submissive posture, with my head bent and eyes looking down rather than up at you? Did you want to see my shoulders slouching down in the same way that tears fall down, my body having been weakened by all my intense sobbing? So, is my pride making you mad? Are you so upset because I'm so happy and joyful that it seems as though I must have gold mines in my own backyard? You have the ability uh, to shoot at me with your words, which are like bullets. You have the ability to cut me with your sharp glare. You may even kill me with your hatred. Nevertheless, just as the air keeps rising, I will keep rising. Does my sex appeal make you upset? Are you taken aback by the fact that I dance as though I have precious gems between my legs? The This is pointing towards the stanza which we have covered today. I rise up out of the history's shameful act of slavery. I rise up from this deeply painful past. I am as vast and full of power as the dark ocean that rises and swells and carries in the tide. I rise up, and in doing so, leave behind all the darkness of terror and fear. I rise up, and in doing so, enter a bright morning that is full of joyful wonder. With the personal qualities and grace I inherited from my ancestors, I embody the dreams and hopes of past enslaved peoples. I will rise and rise and rise. Okay, and then you can see here, last time we also covered the themes from another website, from the previous website which we are doing, but here you can see the more detail of the, especially when they are going to talk about the defiance in the face of oppression. So this is a very detail of that. This is very interesting to to read it. So okay, so this is one of the major themes, like defiance in the face of oppression. And if you're, if you want to give your ideas, so you can take your ideas from her. Like Stella Rice presents the bold defiance of the speaker, implied to be a black woman in the face of oppression. The oppressor addressed throughout as you. She was talking to the oppressor by using the word you, is full of bitter, twisted lies and hatefulness toward the speaker, and hopes to see the speaker broken in both body and spirit. However, despite all the methods of the oppressor to shoot, cut, or kill her, the speaker remains defiant by continuing to rise in triumph. So Angelou was a staunch civil rights activist, and Stella Rice can be taken as a powerful statement specifically against anti-Black racism in America. At the same time, its celebration of dignity in the face of oppression feels universal and can be applied to any circumstance in which a marginalized person refuses to be broken by, and indeed repeatedly rises above prejudice and hatred. Society relentlessly tries to humiliate and demean the speaker who has little power to fight back. The speaker acknowledges that society may enact violence upon her. It also has the ability to write lies about the speaker and present them as facts. The speaker does not have, when she was talking about the history, so the speaker does not have the ability to prevent any of this. And in fact, the attempts to harm the speaker only escalate as the poem continues. This you may crush the speaker into the dirt. It may shoot, kill, and eventually even kill the speaker with hatefulness. An oppressive society, the poem is saying, presents a clear and pressing danger to the speaker's body and mind. Yet the speaker responds to this treatment not only by surviving, but by thriving, something that provokes anger from her oppressor. The speaker wonders how tongue in cheek, why the oppressor is so upset, offended, and gloomy. Perhaps she proposes it is because of her confident walk, generous laughter, or dazzling dance. In other words, the speaker presents her joy, um, her refusal to bend to the speaker's will, as its own act of defiance. Moreover, all of her acts are associated with traditional signs of wealth in the form of oil, gold, and diamonds. Regardless of the oppressor's negative and hateful responses, the speaker continues to prosper. The speaker even explicitly rejects the oppressor's desire to see her broken. The oppressor wants to elicit lowered eyes, teardrops, and soulful cries from the speaker to see her downtrodden. Thus, simply living with joy, pride, and dignity is an act of resistance against and triumph over oppression. Okay. Uh, yes, Rixa, read it from here. Yes. Yes, Beta, I can. Okay. Yes.
Huh?
Yeah, read it, I said. Read it from here. Were you listening? Were you listening?
No, my Wi-Fi went, so I just came back as soon as you said to read it.
Okay, okay, okay. Read it from here.
Indeed, the speaker rises repeatedly over the oppressor's violent hatred and prejudice. The speaker's rise is first compared to the rise of dust, a reference to the earth. Later her rise transforms from the rise of dust to air, which is located physically above the earth. The progression of these comparisons over the course of the poem reinforces the speaker's rise over oppression. Just like the rise of the moons and the suns, the speaker's rise is inevitable and unstoppable. Her dignity and strength are qualities that society can't touch no matter how hard it tries. The speaker is thus able to ascend out of history's shame and a past that's rooted in pain, both of which are particular references to slavery by living with pride and joy. Indeed, her rise, a powerful form of resistance against oppression, is the ultimate dream and hope of oppressed peoples.
Yes, still here.
Given this text,
Mm.
the poem has clear and particular resonance for Black Americans more broadly. The poem is a ringing assertion of the dignity of marginalized people and an insistence of their ultimate inevitable triumph over violence and hate.
Okay, okay. So then there is another, there are the lines where you can find this theme almost in, you know, all of these lines, in all the poetry you will find this theme. Okay, then we are moving towards another theme. Okay, the power and beauty of blackness. Okay, so we are going to cover this. Just a minute, just a minute, Peter. Okay, so this is another theme which we are going to read, the power and beauty of the power and beauty of blackness. So Maya Angelou's work often focused on the experience of being a black woman in America. Read within that context, Still a Rise becomes more than a call for strength in the face of hardship. Uh, okay, just one question. So, have you started the poetry in your school?
She said she would start it after the mock, so I think we'll start it now.
Okay, so you have completed drama.
Yes.
Okay, so okay, it's also a modern day ode. Okay, we are going to, okay. Read within that context, Still a Rise becomes more than a call for a strength in the face of hardship. It's also a modern day ode to the power and beauty of blackness. Although the speaker's racist society believes that Black people's lives and bodies are less worthy than others, the speaker herself vehemently rejects that idea. The speaker asserts her full humanity and also associates her body with symbols of value, such as oil wells, gold mines, and diamonds. These comparisons implicitly critique racist and sexist assumptions of beauty and power as being tied only to whiteness and masculinity, respectively. Instead, the poem becomes an ode to Black womanhood. In a racist world, the poem implies society continuously denies the full humanity of Black people. Society wishes to the speaker were broken, cut, or even killed. Rather than valuing the lives and humanity of Black people, society actively hopes to harm and destroy them. Society's shameful history of slavery was, of course, the ultimate dehumanization. Black people who were enslaved experienced unimaginable pain and nights of terror and fear, as any agency over their own lives and bodies was taken away from them. The speaker references this history to illustrate how little society has historically valued Black life. Then, Nevertheless, the speaker insists on the inherent humanity, value, power, and beauty of our black body. The speaker rises like dust, a subtle biblical allusion. In the Bible, God created humans from dust, so a kind of reference uh, from Bible. So, okay, God created humans from dust, and humans return to dust once they die. But stating that she is like dust and speaker asserts her full humanity. She is as much a creation of God as anyone else. The speaker also walks as though she possesses all wealth, laughs as though she owns gold mines, and dances as though she has diamonds suggestively placed between her thighs. These symbols are all objects of great value. All wealth provide their owners with wealth and consequently power. Gold and diamonds are expensive and prized for their beauty. Thus, the speaker assigns value to her body and grants it power and beauty regardless of what society says. In particular, the placement of diamonds at the meeting of her thighs speaks specifically to the speaker's womanhood. Okay, so this is a kind of reference, the life she lived as a nightclub dancer. So, taken as a whole, the lines declare and reclaim the speaker's body and power in her femininity as a Black woman. The speaker also insists that she is Black Ocean and a vast, powerful, and unstoppable figure. The speaker doesn't assert her strength in spite of her blackness, but rather insists that her strength comes from her identity as a Black person and by subverting readers' expectations of an ode and who are what it should praise. Angelou challenges the assumed white gaze of our readership. Humanity, power, and beauty, Angelou declares, are abundant in blackness and black womanhood. Okay, so and these are the lines where you can find this theme. Actually, you will find these again this theme in the whole of that in the whole poem. Okay, so now here you can see the symbols which have been used here, like valuable objects which we have repeatedly read. Like these are the valuable objects which have been mentioned here. And then if we see the poetic devices, okay, so this is about the speaker. Okay, so still arise. So the speaker of still arise is someone who faces unjust hatred and prejudice from society. This is also the part of that paper which I sent you. There was a question related to speaker, so this can be helpful for that. For that question, like the speaker of still arise is someone who faces unjust hatred and prejudice from society. She's also clearly a person was unafraid to confront her oppressors and mock them with a series of cheeky rhetorical questions. Finally, she's also confident enough to assert her inevitable rise above such antipathy. Moreover, specifically, the speaker of Still Arise is strongly implied to be Angelou herself, which is why we have chosen to use female pronouns in reference to the speaker throughout this guide. The reference to the speaker dancing like she's got diamonds in the meeting of her thighs is perhaps a nod to Angelou's past as a nightclub dancer. And so these are the signs from where we can, know that like Angelou herself is the author of this, is the poet of this poem. The allusions to slavery and the metaphor comparing the speaker to a black ocean also imply that the speaker is a black person living in the Western world. That said, the speaker can also be considered more broadly as representative of any person facing the indignity of racism and oppression. The speaker who successfully rises above such oppression at the end of the poem can then be viewed as a symbol of hope for marginalized peoples around the world. Then you can see the setting of the drama. So okay, you are going to read this. Yes, Rexa.
Mm. Still I Rise does not have a setting beyond that of modern society in general. Within the society, there are oppressors, you, who are filled with hatred and prejudice, and there are those, the speaker, who are marginalized. As the poem progresses, the speaker reveals that this society is one that has had a shameful history of slavery. While the poem is implied to specifically refer to the historical oppression of Black people, the lack of specific setting helps the poem's message of triumph in the face of prejudice and hate feel universal.
Hmm. Okay. Then this is the last thing which we are going to cover here. So this is the literary context. So Still Rise was published in 1978 in Maya Angelou's third volume of poetry, and Still Rise. At this point in her career, Angelou was already an established writer, having previously produced six plays, three autobiographies, including the famous "I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings," two poetry books, and one spoken word album. After publication, Still Arise became not only one of the most famous poems from its collection, but also one of the most famous and well known poems of Angelou's career. Much of Angelou's much of Angelou's poetry is often autobiographical and, as such, tackles issues related to Black identity and womanhood. Angelou herself once said that she felt she was following a tradition established by Frederick Douglass, the slave narrative. Okay. In her use of personal narrative in her work. Okay, a singer, songwriter, dancer, playwright, actress, Angelou also often blended recitation, theater, music, and dance in her performances on a stage. Perhaps it's no wonder then that Angelou's poetry has often been described by as even better heard than read. Indeed, Still Arise can perhaps best be appreciated through performance. Okay, so the performative quality of Angelou's poetry has roots in African American oral traditions as well as in Harlem Renaissance movement centered on Black arts and expression in 1920s. The poetry at the time was heavily influenced by jazz rhythms. Additionally, poetry and the literature produced by Harlem Renaissance writers focus on and celebrated Blackness. Oftentimes, poets such as Langston Hughes, whom Angelou counted as an influencer on her work, were writers as well as social activists. Angelou herself joined the Harlem Writers Guild in the 1950s, alongside her prominent Black authors such as James Baldwin. Angelou's influence on American literature is immeasurable. Her performances on a stage have had a large impact on modern slam poetry, a popular contemporary genre of poetry meant to be read aloud. Still I Rise has also influenced and inspired responses from artists and writers and been recited by well-known figures from Nicki Minaj to Serena Williams. The poem's message of rising above oppression and triumphing over hatred has long resonated and in all likelihood will continue to resonate with readers across the world. And then here, historical uh, context. Angelou still rise in the decade following the American Civil Rights Movement. The movement was focused on achieving equality for Black people and other people of color in the United States. During this time, activists were able to successfully achieve landmark legislation and judicial rulings such as the Civil Rights Act 1964. Angelou herself was a passionate civil rights activist and in fact worked for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Okay, just a minute. Hmm. So, the assassination of Dr. King, one of the most prominent inspirational leaders of the movement in 1968, was a terrible loss to the Black community and the movement as a whole. Of course, the fight for equality did not end there. Angelou wrote this poem in the late 1970s during the post civil rights movement era, though, of course, racism continued to persist long past the movements, and the Black feminist movement had also found its strength by that time, fueled by disappointment within the broader civil rights and feminist movements. Racism, hatred, prejudice continues to persist in America. Thus, it is no wonder that Still a Rise, a poem about overcoming oppression, continues to resonate and remain relevant for so many people today. Okay, that is what you know we have done for this poem, and then it was, yes, this is the book where you will find a collection of this. There is the whole collection of Angelou's poems, but you will find here. I think there was page number 91 or 197, something like that. So there you can find this particular collection which you have to cover. I'm going to send you. I think from here. Yes, this is here. This collection starts. That is part of your syllabus. So you can read from here. From here. Okay. Here you can see the number. This is the very first poem of it. Okay, so we are not going to follow the sequence, but this is the first poem of this. Okay, that's it for today, and we are going to do other things in our next lecture. Okay.
Okay.
Any question?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Okay. Allah Hafiz.
No.